Okay, so let's finally address a question that's frequently asked of me. That is, does weed affect dream recall? Speaking from many years of experience, I can unequivocally say yes. But in a good way or a bad way? Well, both actually. Please keep in mind all the things I talk about in this video are my own personal subjective experiences. With that disclaimer out the way, let's first look at the positive effects of weed and dream recall. Weed transition periods are a good place to start. This refers to the front end and back end of an addiction cycle. In other words, the first few days getting on and the first few days getting off. As an example, when I was just getting back into weed after a long break, my recall shot up. And when I was just getting off weed after smoking daily for months, again, my recall shot up. I've talked to others who've experienced this same thing, so it appears to be a fairly common theme. I also noticed positive effects when smoking one-off joints before bed, disconnected from addiction cycles. In fact, I can remember numerous intense lucid dreams that were induced by going to bed stoned. But the intensity of recall and lucidity nearly always tied in with how often I was smoking. A one-off cheeky joint before bed was likely to help, but 3 or 4 just before bed after smoking relentlessly for months on end was unlikely to help. Also, during nights that I smoked insane amounts, I started inducing instantaneous hypnagogic imagery when closing my eyes. This would usually appear in the form of a mind's eye vision of the room I was presently in. As in, I'd close my eyes, but it would still appear to me as if my eyes were open. I experienced this in both lucid and non-lucid forms. Sometimes I'd purposefully induce it, and sometimes I'd slip off unintentionally, but continue under the illusion that I was awake. Either way, I enjoyed the experiences, and nearly always recalled them once they came to an end. Anyway, I could carry on, but I think I've made my point. There can be interesting, if not positive effects associated with weed, dream recall, and lucidity. But what about the negative effects? Because there are plenty. Well, the sustained periods of heavy usage are definitely when I noticed the biggest downshifts. Not only in dream recall, but it was also common for me, whilst deep into an addiction cycle, to experience horrendous weed-induced nightmares. And some afternoons I'd wake up with no recall whatsoever. Yes, I said afternoons. But did it completely kill off my dream recall? Well, as I stated in my previous video, I remembered this incorrectly for years, but now, with better life clarity, I can safely say, no, it didn't. Not completely. I did still remember my dreams. I even dreamt lucidly still. But was there a noticeable decline during sustained periods of intense usage? Well, yes. Definitely. However, on the whole, my dream recall and ability to achieve lucidity remained intact. This is certainly not the case for everyone though. Over the years I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people pursuing lucid dreaming, or at the very least people pursuing increased dream recall. Out of those people, the ones that smoked weed intensely would nearly always tell me that weed had outright killed their recall. Or if not outright, pretty close. So why didn't it for me? Well, it probably had something to do with me already being semi-experienced when I transitioned into the drug world. In other words, because I already had good recall that pretty much transitioned over but just slightly downgraded itself. Would it have worked out so favourably for me otherwise? Probably not. And let me stress once again, there were nights that were complete blackouts. I can remember plenty of times when I not only lost all my dream recall, but also partial waking life recall from the previous day. Although, keep in mind, that wasn't always merely weed-induced. Hopefully I'm painting a fairly balanced picture here, because the truth of the matter ain't simple. Weed did mess with my dream recall. Weed did mess with the content of my dreams. And hell, it definitely messed with my short-term memory and waking life. But did it completely ruin everything? No. Definitely not. In fact, during periods of responsible usage, that rarely happened, but when it did, it actually helped me. So if you're a pothead and desperate to lucid dream, you can still make it work for you. You're just going to have to put in the extra work compared to someone who's clean. However, if you're really struggling and can't find any other way, then I do suggest quitting for at least a while. Give yourself a half-decent chance to kickstart your recall. And if you're the sort of person that actually has control over their will and only smokes once or twice a month, then I think it could actually end up enhancing your dream recall. Just always keep an eye on your usage. It's all about moderation, like it often is in life. But please, always go on what your body and mind are telling you. Don't come to me asking, Reese, should I do this? Should I do that? Only you can know for sure what works best for you, because everyone's wired slightly differently. Just tune into yourself and you'll know what's right. Personally, for me, I gave up weed entirely because after numerous attempts, I could never sustain responsible usage. I'd always end up back in the same addiction cycle, smoking relentlessly, day in, day out. But does it have to be like that for you? Not necessarily. Alright, that'll do for now. I'll probably make some future videos going into more depth about specifics, like I might tell you about the weed-induced nightmares I used to have, or things of that nature. But yeah, that'll do for now. Please leave a comment. Tell me if and how weed affects your dream recall.